And just when I thought it would be a quiet week in photography and camera news, I was wrong. Today, I want to talk about some potential specs for a rumored Panasonic Lumix S1H Mark II. Not only do I want to talk about the rumored specs, I also want to talk about the impact of such a camera. So these are just rumors. Nothing about this is official, but it does send signals, as we learned with the Nikon ZR rumored specs. They were pretty much spot on. In this case, I'm going to assume a lot of what we're seeing may be in it, and hopefully a few more areas will be improved, because I see some things I would like to see in this camera. Now, before we get started, I do want to let you know that I currently own this right here. That's right. It's the S1H Mark I. It's the first one. Now, this camera, when it was released, it was absolutely revolutionary. It was the first mirrorless camera that was Netflix approved. At the time, they were the first ones to do this screen, which now we think is kind of standard in a lot of mirrorless cameras, where you can actually tilt it and turn it, and guess what? Not get in the way of your HDMI. And you can see, you could tilt it, turn it, everything else, and not get in the way of the full HDMI. And that's what made this camera really great for filmmaking. Unfortunately, it has contract, phase tech, and 2 SD card slots right there. And those were 2 big drawbacks, especially compared to cameras released nowadays with CF Express Type B and everything else. It had fantastic heat dispersion in the S1H. As far as filmmaking, I've used it on a couple projects. I absolutely loved it. Fantastic if you're shooting manual. It's still an extremely capable camera. This was the first mirrorless camera that has a record button in the front like that and on the top. I thought that, like, there were some great revolutionary things. It does 6K, open gate. What else does it do? It has your, it does have beautiful slow-mo footage, great stabilization. What else is there? Yeah, you can create, you couldn't shoot ProRes RAW internal in this, and that was annoying. You could do it, I think, through HDMI out to like an Atomos or something. But overall, it was, you could see the size of this compared to the S1 Mark II. It's pretty big. I mean, it's pretty big, but for what I use it for, it didn't bother me, because it's smaller than a box camera, like a box cinema camera. But it definitely has some weight to it. You could feel it. It's capable of shooting 24 megapixel images, etc., which I never used it for. But I own it, and I still have it, because it's a great B cam now to an S5 Mark II, S5 Mark II X, or the S1 II, etc. It's a fantastic camera, but definitely some limitations. And for sure, in 2025, has some, it's showing its age, right? So now let's take a look at the rumored specs of the new version of what this camera may be. Let's go. Okay, so here we are at lrumors.com, and here are these little potential specs. All right, I don't know Japanese, but if you do, feel free to post down below what it says, because we're going to read the English version. All right, so first of all, it's full frame, just like the S1H, full frame. All right, CMOS sensor with global shutter. That right there is going to make this camera worth it. That right there, if it's global shutter, it actually comes global shutter, full frame, that right there will be the second mirrorless camera that has implemented global shutter. Okay, so I would be absolutely ecstatic for this. As many of you know, I've been waiting for a heavy video-centric cinema, if you will, camera from either Nikon or Panasonic. This might be the one at full frame, global shutter. Whoo-wee! All right, 16 plus stops of dynamic range, which is in par with even Red. I think Red has 17 or something like that. So this is definitely on par with what's available out there right now. Yeah, Vlog 2, which I'm interested in. Gamma with 16 stops of dynamic range. So this is going to be nice. Has built-in ARRI color science. So unlike having to buy an extra code or whatnot to get that feature in the S1 Mark II, you're going to be able to get it off rip through this camera, which I'm not surprised, because I bet this camera is going to cost a pretty penny, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Next thing is real-time LUT support. Now, Panasonic's been synonymous with LUT support. You can actually preview your LUTs way back since, I believe, the GH5. So this is nothing new. But what is new is 39 LUTs you could have pre-programmed into the camera. Usually it's about up to 10. It says 39. I don't know why you need 39, but dang it, you could use it. Okay, so that's fantastic. And it has a dedicated, it says via a LUT button. So I can't wait to see what that is. I didn't know LUT was that important to have a dedicated button, but all right. These are specs. We're going to run with it. It could do 4K 240 frames a second. Internal recording with zero crop. Let's repeat that. Zero crop. You know, many of you who have been following me, I've been screaming at companies saying, where's the 4K zero crop at 120? You're going to get it here, supposedly, at 240. 5.1K at 120p. Full frame recording, zero crop again. That's awesome. The amount of creative possibilities are going to be endless with this kind of a camera if it could do that. Now this is where it really stands apart from its predecessor, the S1H. Internal ProRes RAW modes. ProRes 4444 XQ. Let's repeat that again. ProRes 4444 XQ, not 422, not 420. All right. It does ProRes 4444 and then ProRes 422 HQ, which a lot of us are familiar with, the ZR and S1 II and everything else. A lot of cameras for ProRes 422 HQ and then ProRes 422, ProRes 422 LT. Okay, the most compressed version of it. Before we move forward, I want to explain to you why ProRes 4444 XQ matters. All right, so here we are, Google, and I just Googled it in. What makes this codec better? Okay, what is it? All right, well, first of all, it offers full 4444 RGBA color fidelity. Okay, so it's the most lossless alpha channel, meaning you're going to get every single bit of detail in precise color. Okay, so this is the full color resolution. Unlike ProRes 422 formats, which use chroma subsampling or to reduce color data, ProRes 4444 samples color information for every pixel, providing full color resolution and the highest color fidelity, which is going to be superior for color grading, as it says right here. There's nothing that's going to get better than this. Now, let's go back. All right, so that's why having internal ProRes 4444 XQ matters. You're going to get absolutely every bit of color detail out of this sensor, okay, compared to any other ones. This is major. This is major. Now, the other thing is, of course, it does 10-bit 422 internal recording, which most of our cameras do out there, right? You can spend a camera $1,500 and get that, all right? But it does it. Now, here's something that's really groundbreaking compared to its predecessor. It has phase detect autofocus, which absolutely I've been enjoying with the S5 Mark II. I believe the GH7 has it. Yes, it does. And all the latest Panasonic cameras, S1 II, etc., etc. But guess what? Every time they've released a camera, I've noticed the autofocus getting even better. So this is fantastic. You're going to get a color, a color rendering powerhouse, okay? Or recording, excuse me. It has 32-bit float audio recording. So guess what? This is a new thing for us, which is great. 32-bit float internal recording. I just hope that it's accessible to any microphone we plug into it, that we get that benefit. So, but that sounds like if it says internal recording, float audio recording, I'm going to assume it does, because hell, the ZR does it. You have 8.5 stops of in-body stabilization, which is a major upgrade. I believe the ZR has 7.5. So this is at least a complete full stop. Now, what these stops and stabilization mean exactly, I'm not sure, but we already knew Lumix is synonymous for amazing in-body stabilization. So if they just made that even better, this camera is already hitting a home run. Next thing is 1.4 million dot free angle LCD monitor. Now, free angle, I'm going to assume it's going to be something like this S1H. See how the S1, look at the S1H. You go right here, you push it. It can go that way. You could tilt it and you could turn it and swivel it. And being that this design was not only revolutionary at the time, but it also keeps you from getting in, you could swivel the screen without hitting all of your ports. All right. So if it has that, I'm already going to be happy. That's fantastic. Now, new generation EVF with 120 hertz refresh rate and near zero blackout. Now, from the picture I noticed above, I didn't see an EVF, but okay, we'll just see. Okay, we'll find out. Next thing is dual CF Express Type B card slots. That's going to be great because if you're shooting 5.1K at 120 frames, full frame recording, you're going to have a CF Express Type B, okay? Or 4K at 240 frames. That's just the way it is. At zero crop, full frame. Anyway, next thing, external SSD recording is supported. Not surprised. They've been implementing this kind of a workflow for a while now, which is really great. But me personally, I've been using CF Express Type B, but if you want to use an SSD, you certainly can. And this camera says it will support it. Reworked thermal design for extended recording sessions. That is a big thing. Now, again, with the S1H right here, if you look right here, this is where all the thermals are, right there and right there. They're right over, excuse me, right here. If you could, let me see. There we go. It's like right there. Okay. So they definitely, due to the bigger size, made sure there's plenty of fan space to keep this thing cool. Okay. I won't mind it for a camera like this because it's not a walk around, I don't want it to be a walk around camera like an S9. I want this thing to be a cinema beast. I don't give I didn't mind this personally. Okay. So if it's lighter than that, a little bit heavier than the S1 II, it is what it is. As long as it gives me that unlimited record time of, let's say, 4K 60. 4K 60, uncropped, unlimited record time. I'll take it to be a little bit heavier. That's fine. That's just the way it is. It's mathematics. Now, and the last thing is professional weather resistant body design, which I would assume this one, the S1H is as well. And I'm assuming this one will be too. Now, of course, these are just rumors, but there are a few things that I am hoping to see in this camera if this is a real thing. One is that it records at 8K. 8K seems to be the gold standard right now for prosumer grade mirrorless camera, video centric cameras. Okay. The Z8 does it. The S1 Mark II does it. So it's definitely got to perform at least up to that par, or at least be able to record up to 8K like that does. So it needs to have that. I definitely am excited about the zero crop with 4K 120 or 4K 240, shoot, 5.1K. I hope it can do, obviously, open gate. Lumix has been the first to come out the gate, no pun intended, with open gate technology or that feature in their mirrorless cameras. So I'm going to assume they'll definitely have open gate in this one as well. Internal NDs would be pretty awesome, but I'm not going to be so critical on that as much as I would want the open gate for sure, for flexibility. It's got to have full HDMI, that's for sure. Now let's talk about the price. I can say a camera like this is going to be at least around $4,000, just like this was when it first came out. All right. I can already bet my bottom dollar that an S1H Mark II will be Netflix approved, just like the first version one. There's no reason to not. Okay. Especially that it does internal ProRes RAW 44448XQ. That off top is going to let you know it's going to be a very cinema friendly, meaning it can work right into your filmmaking workflow kind of a camera. I'm going to say definitely $4,000 is going to be the rough mark. The reason why is this is already damn near 50% off, as I mentioned, $2,100. And color wise, this camera is still great. All right, I mean, I have all the latest features and, like I said, 2 SD card slots versus CF Express Type B, but it still produces great quality images. I think 4 would be great and competitive. Here's another reason. Reason is because Blackmagic Pixis 12K is now available, and guess what? That's at $5,500. So if you're pricing it to $5,000 or close to it, you're going to be very much competing with that kind of a camera that produces 12K. It has the same sensor as the Ursa Cine for a very competitive price. And you can still get 12K, 8K, 4K, all that other stuff without cropping. So that would be a tough one, especially with a nice box body kind of a build, a format or a platform that filmmakers are very accustomed and enjoy, really. So I'm hoping it would stay under 5. Definitely, I'm thinking around the 4,000 mark, because I believe the S1 II 6K camera, that's at $3,200. So if that one's at $3,200 and this one's that much more of a beast, I can see it easily at $4,000. If it's at $4,000, this camera does everything it's saying it may do with ARRI color profile in it, and everything else, 8K, open gate, all blah, 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 all that stuff, I'll have to buy this camera. I will have to buy it. I will have to buy it. Many of you know I've been shooting with Lumix for a long time. All my short films I've made have been on Lumix, and this would definitely be my A cam. These are just rumored specs. Let me know what you think about what you just heard. Are you excited about it? Are you pretty much deaf-toned because of all these camera releases and Tech-tember? Either way, let me know down below what your comments are. Of course, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. I'm Robert Silver. Until next time, keep shooting and stay creative.